everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the London's Pretty Cool podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Erin Briggs.
And I'm Patrick Briggs.
And we have another amazing episode for you coming up. We have an amazing guest, Miriam Waliji from Urban Roots London. Urban Roots is a nonprofit organization that revitalizes underused land in the City of London for agriculture by producing high quality organic vegetables and herbs, distributing produce locally directly to customers and to private and social enterprises, developing agricultural opportunities for the neighborhood, social enterprises and community organizations within the City of London, and growing a self-sustaining urban agricultural model to germinate to new sites. I almost got through all of it. So thank you so much, Miriam, for taking the time. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. And that was honestly very impressive. I have tried to do that before and did not do it as gracefully as you did.
Thank you. So jumping right in, how did the idea for Urban Roots come about?
Yeah, so the organization was founded by 4 people. So Richie Bloomfield, Jeremy Harrell, and Heather and Graham Bracken. And honestly, it just they all came from this collective notion of something needs to be done. But they all came from these very different perspectives. Like Heather's a criminal defense lawyer. Graham is an academic in like the environmental sphere. Richie is an instructor at Huron for business, and Jeremy was working in like the world of social work. Or in the social work sector. And they all kind of had these different perspectives, but the underlying issue was like, something's wrong and needs to be fixed. So they just kind of sat down at a coffee shop, chatted it out, and here we are.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a pretty fun story.
Yeah.
Since starting in 2017, like, how has it grown from this coffee shop discussion to what it is now?
Yeah, holy smokes. It's grown a whole lot. So the first year, it was truly just like a test site of can they actually grow anything on this land? Turns out we could. So then from there, we just started like truly the space has just kind of, we've grown on more. Like we've literally and physically grown each year, which is pretty cool. But yeah, over the years, like started out just handing out vegetables to folks if they wanted them, and now we're at this full-fledged operation where we have folks who buy from, like you mentioned, who purchase the full rate of our produce to offset the cost of being able to donate and have affordable pricing. And we have 2 full-time staff, we have seasonal staff. We have the full board of directors, we have committees, we have volunteers, we have this full organization that started with just like this little coffee shop conversation between 4 pals.
Awesome.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. You host markets to sell the products Wednesdays 4 to 8, Sundays 10 to 1. These volunteers and everybody who gets involved, where do they or how do they usually hear about you? How do they usually how I guess like it's always in them that they want to get involved in something like this, but how do they hear about you normally? How do they come up to you and go, oh, this is how I discovered you guys?
Mm-hmm. So there's often like a few different avenues. Some are, we're at events like CD Saturdays or, the Go Wild, Grow Wild events, like obviously in the past, pre-COVID. We'd be at these events and folks would get a chance to talk to us and then be like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. We've also I used to run educational programming, still do, again, different with COVID. But the students would then like kind of bring their parents along. But honestly, a lot of it is just neighborhood curiosity as well. So people, when they pass by, like when they're coming into the city from Highbury, there's this plot of land that's kind of curious, or right by Meadow Lily, we're right by the TVP. So people are walking their dogs and they're passing by and they see this like curiosity. So they come and they ask questions and then they stick around, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and I think a lot of like we make an active effort to try and engage with the community, whether it's attending a community events. I remember in one of the first years that when I was a volunteer, Heather was like literally knocking on doors on the neighbor, like around the neighborhood, being like, "Hey, we exist. Here's a flyer if you ever want to come by." Or just being able to talk about it in a meaningful way, because we care about it, and the word just kind of gets out.
These markets, like what types of things, like what has grown that we can go, like if people want to come and buy stuff, especially to help support, like what are they going to get at Urban Roots markets?
Yeah. So Jeremy, who is one of the founding members as well as one of the current board members, he's a big part of the planning process with our farm managers. And he is a funny dude and just loves like trying new things. So if you come to the farm, of course, it's dependent on the season, and you'll find things like in the early months of kale and lettuce greens and things like that. But as the season progresses, like right now, we are in an abundance of tomatoes, or we have the cucumbers, or kohlrabi, which is like this really, it's a member of the broccoli family, but it's basically just like exclusively the stem, which sounds really weird, but it is very delightful if you just shave it up and put it into a coleslaw. Or, we'll have like zucchini blossoms available, different types of beets, different types of turnips. So yeah, it's really just like what we try and do is we're mindful of trying new things and experimenting. Like one year we had pink celery, which was like really, really thin and like a very intense celery flavor, which is kind of weird. So we want to try new things, but we're also really mindful that the community that we're supporting with the donations, we want to have culturally appropriate food as well. So we chat with the folks at Crouch and what are they actually interested in receiving. So we'll grow more of that. So we might have a lot of eggplant. But yeah, it's a little bit of what you could expect, of what's what the climate allows for, and a little bit of experimentation of some funky seeds that we get from really neat people.
Yeah, that pink celery that you said sounds really cool. So I definitely want to try something like that. You kind of mentioned working with Crouch. So you at Urban Roots do this model of thirds. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So within our model, so the model exists because when we looked at different models of food security initiatives, what we often found was they were so dependent on external funding. And there are a lot of flaws with that model. It's great because, food is a necessity. People need it, so we need to get it to them. And people doing their best they're doing their best, and that's beautiful. And funding is so contingent on who's in power. It's contingent on, what the priorities are, what the strategic priorities are of the provincial, municipal, and federal government. And what we wanted to do was create a model that was self-sustaining. And so that's where the model of third comes in. So no less than a third is donated to various community organizations. No more than a third is sold wholesale to businesses in the city that are interested in supporting us. And that middle third is, again, that social enterprise or direct to the community farm gate sales that folks can buy from. So yeah, it's just the model of third is really our intentional way of making sure that we can provide to the community for a long time. Like we're not just waiting on grants, where we're actually able to generate that revenue ourselves and keep the farm going.
Very nice. What are some of the people that you've partnered with?
Yeah, so Crouch Neighborhood Resource Center is a big one. They're just down the road from us, so they're our lovely neighbors. We've also supported My Sister's Place, which is a women's shelter in Old East Village, Queer Events London. We've been able to support them as well. We have worked with the London Food Bank, the London Vegan Food Bank as well. And we're always looking to support other folks. We were able to donate some seedlings to Oneida, Nation of the Thames, for them to get some things started on their land. And yeah, those are kind of the big partners that we have. But we're always looking as the farm grows. The hope is that so can our community partners.
This year, Urban Roots started a community composting program in which community members can donate their organic waste. What made you decide to start this program?
Yeah, so I think it was actually started last year. We kind of piloted it, but honestly, it was because the London Environmental Network offered an incubator kind of program with some seed funding, and we know the value and importance of good soil.
Mm.
That's why we have the space that we do. It was already zoned for agriculture, and we want to be able to have that reciprocal relationship with the land where we're not just extracting from it, we're also giving back. And a good way to do that is to offer like that, what we call black gold, like that really, really high like nutrient value back into the soil. And given the bylaws, there's certain things that you can't add, but we know that we can add food waste. And food waste, there's so much that goes to the landfill. If we can divert it and use it for some productive good, that's what we wanted to do. And it's not yet in place, but we also have this idea of how can we trade compost for produce, and like folks can bring us their compost and we can exchange that for, instead of like harvest bucks, we could take compost and they can get food in return and just create this cyclical cycle. So yeah, it's kind of the idea of reciprocity of how can we give back to the land, give back to the people, and take care of our earth in a meaningful way with something that just is easy for us to do. It's composting. We have the means to do it, and it benefits the earth, so it benefits the plants that way.
How can people get involved in this program?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things. If you like to get your hands dirty, we're always looking for folks to come out to the farm, and whether it's like weeding or harvesting or picking potato bugs off the plants and like flicking them into the forest. Plenty of tasks like that to be done. If you're more in mind of not necessarily wanting to do the physical labor, we have plenty of committees that folks can join. So we have our annual harvest dinner fundraiser that happens, and so we have a planning committee who takes care of that. If you're more into the numbers, we have a finance committee, we have an HR committee. So yeah, there's basically, if you have something that you're passionate about, there's likely a way we can make it work. So if you care about the Urban Roots organization, just let us know. And by all means, we will find a way to get you involved.
I love that you gave me such an incredible description of what to do, but I meant specifically just the composting program. Like, how do I?
Well, for that, you literally just come and give us your trash. So you can either come to the markets on the Wednesdays or the Sundays and drop off your compost, or if you can't make it during those specific times, we actually have a compost bin right outside of the gates at 21 Norland Ave, and you can just drop your compost off in there, and we will do all the weighing and reporting that we need to do, but you can just leave it at our doorsteps and we'll take it.
I think it's so. I think it's so interesting, though, how many people actually don't know what composting is actually and what's involved in it.
Going to say it goes right into our next question, which was your educational programs that you have at Urban Roots. I was lucky today when I was going through, I was watching some of the videos for the YouTube videos discussing things like food systems and environmental intersectionality. You also offer, obviously, pre-COVID school trips and educational programming. So what made you guys decide to start these programs, and what types of things are you teaching, and why is it important? All those fun questions involved with education.
Yeah, so the educational program is a little bit of my baby. So I have a bit of an educational background. I used to work in high schools with that age group, teaching French actually. But yeah, I just really, really love that age group. I think that when you have, like the 14 to kind of 18-year-olds, they have so much to offer, and they're like starting to develop those really great questions, and they're starting to really think about the world critically. And if you can offer the opportunity for them to learn in a way that's engaging, it's such a valuable experience. Like I had that, and I am so grateful for it. So when I was thinking about all the things that Urban Roots was doing, I was like, man, there's so many ways that this can relate to being a better human. And education is more than just like these standardized tests. It's also learning to become a better human. So how can we tie this all in? And yeah, so I was fortunate enough that one of my old high school teachers is the head of experiential learning at the Thames Valley School Board. Her name is Erin Much. So she and I were connected, and she just started having these ideas, and I was just like, yes, heck yes, let's do it. So it just kind of snowballed from there. So I was specifically working with like grade 10 students, but then we realized that there's so much opportunity to have education from like literally kindergarten to university students. And you can scale the way that these topics are taught to be age appropriate, but topics of food security, topics of like environmental stewardship, of land access, of food mileage, they're all important, and you can start them at such a young age. So that was kind of the motivation behind it all, was, okay, how can we start having these conversations at a young age, and really build up to them to, yeah, having these conversations about like environmental racism and justice. So that, people feel like kids feel equipped to have these conversations, because we can't shy away from them. It is relevant. It is in like, it's things that they're dealing with. So let's equip them and empower them to actually deal with it.
That's amazing. I didn't realize that was a part of the programming as well. Like, that's fantastic.
I mean, I make it part of the programming. You can make anything relate if you try hard enough. Yeah, I remember having a conversation with someone, and I was like, yeah, I could teach English classes here. And they're like, how? And I was like, because narrative, like, a whole, like the biggest part of an organization like this is being able to communicate your story. And communicating your story is all just about like writing and storytelling. And that's English. So give me your English students, and I'll make it work.
So see, that kind of sounds just like our mom works in the environmental sector at the Upper Thames, and she's been using stewardship like in the Catholic schools, been using that as like, okay, we'll take that as stewardship as for stewards of the earth, and we're going to teach them all about this environmental stuff, but we're going to use the religion class to do that, to try and get it totally. That. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the environmental program classes were always my favorite as well. In CCH, they had this environmental leadership program where they took you around. And yeah, I remember a day exactly where we went and planted certain, I can't remember at the time what it was, but definitely something in like an urban garden somewhere, which is very cool. So yeah, I just like that programming is always so involving, and I've always found like to be the best way to educate. Like especially myself when I was young, was to like get you out of the classroom and into like using your hands and getting in there. And I don't know, it's I totally agree with what's going on. Absolutely. As well, you have this harvest dinner. 2021 was just announced. It's for September 26th. Can you tell us a little bit about this event?
Yeah, for sure. So this year, as well as last year, it's been like a harvest dinner at home experience. So typically, we have this like big blowout on the farm. The chefs kind of cook everything on site. We have this big, beautiful like cathedral tent, and everyone is crammed into the space together, sitting super close and eating together. we're not doing that. So this year instead, we're taking that whole atmosphere of the harvest dinner and we're bringing it home. Growing Chefs is our kind of main lead partner in this. So we use the Growing Chef space as our pickup point, and we're going to be working with Growing Chefs as well as a couple other folks to curate this menu highlighting the produce of the Urban Roots farm and turning it into like a multi-course meal that you can take home and enjoy. So the purpose of the harvest dinner is twofold. One, it is like it's a fundraising event. It's a way for us to really garner that seed money to get a kickstart on the next season. Farming, the winter season is still very extensive. We still have staff to pay, and we still have expenses, but we're not growing anything. So the board is just kind of working away, working on grants and things like that. So the harvest dinner is really like our final hurrah of, okay, this is how much money we have for the next season. But outside of that, the harvest dinner is also just a time to celebrate everything that happened on the farm in the past season. Our whole thing is that there is dignity in beautiful food, and everyone deserves access to beautiful food. It shouldn't just be like, the way that it often is, which is not a knock against the system, but like things that are left over get donated, and then those donated things get are part of the community outreach, and people deserve food, and that is great, but there's also just like the ability to cook something you really want to cook and you have access to the things you actually want access to, or not getting like a tomato that you need to cut pieces off, but like one that's literally taken right off the vine and then distributed out. Like there's so much value in that, and there's so much empowerment in that. So being able to celebrate not only that that's what the farm stands for, but also just like all of these beautiful flavors coming together with the help of the community, and what the community as a whole was able to do. We had our AGM over the weekend, and for me, the standout piece of that was just like, we are supported by so many people and so many partners, and so our community is expansive, and I don't even think we can really wrap our heads around it. Mm-hmm. So the Harvest Dinner is really like a celebration of that in a lot of ways.
It's funny you say that you're not even sure about your impact, because like preparing for this, I'd be asking about like, my partner, our mom, like, do you know about Urban Roots London? They'd be like, oh yeah, absolutely. So it's well known around the important people in our lives, anyways. So that's a good thing.
Thanks.
You're currently you're looking for volunteers to join the Harvest Dinner Chefs team. Did you want to do like a little volunteer call out to our listeners if anyone's interested?
Yeah, for sure. That would be amazing. So historically in the past, we've just kind of worked with chefs that we know and love, and that has always been a really incredible experience. Loved it every time. This year, we really recognize that, one, there are so many people in our community that we don't even know like what their skills are. Like they'll come to the farm and they'll talk to us about kohlrabi or like pickling watermelon rind and all of these things, and there are people who are equipped to support something like the Harvest Dinner, and we just don't know. And the other thing is that being able to support something like the Harvest Dinner is frankly a privilege. In the past, the chefs have always volunteered their time, they volunteered their labor, and we're really, really grateful for that. And this year, with the impact that the restaurant industry has seen over the past year and a bit, we really wanted to find a way to contribute back in some way that we could. So still working with Growing Chefs, we're looking to expand who we're working with and offer an honorarium to the folks who do participate. so that, there's an opportunity to do something and, connect with the work of Urban Roots London if that's something that they're interested in, and not have to put themselves out financially in order to do so. So if you are interested, if you think that, coming up with a crafty menu with a few other passionate folks and myself would be a fun time, and then, distributing it to 200 hungry people who come knock on the doors of Growing Chefs, in the link of our Instagram bio, there is a link to just fill in a contact form. It's pretty simple, just ask some contact questions as well as a little bit about your experience, which really doesn't have an impact on whether or not you get to participate. And then you'll get to have a lovely little chat with me as well as another person from our committee member. And hopefully we'll be able to find the perfect dream team to create something really, really wonderful for all of the community who participates in the Harvest Dinner this year.
Awesome. And for the community who might not be chefs, how do we sign up so that we can be a part of this Harvest Dinner this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So ticket sales have not been released yet, but you could either sign up for our newsletter on our website, which is urbanrootslondon.ca, or you can follow our Instagram or Facebook page. And yeah, we will for sure be announcing when those tickets will be released. We always sell out, which is fantastic. So yeah, it'll be a really beautiful time. I'm so excited. The food is always bananas good. And I can only imagine it will be the same this year.
It's awesome.
I had a few more just small questions before we get into like our London based questions and everything. Just I was thinking to myself right now, the whole urban garden, is it hard to find the locations and like get those locations?
Yeah, it is more complicated than you might think. So basically, with the bylaws, you have to have certain zoning to be able to grow and distribute food to the scale of which we are. So unless you're outside of the city and there's like plenty of agricultural land, to be in the city you have to be zoned as like OS1, or which is like open space, or specifically agriculture, and that is actually pretty tough to find. And then beyond that, if you're planting directly in the ground, you want to be able to test the soil and test the water and make sure, all the things that you're growing in aren't going to be harmful to the folks who are consuming them. And because London is also pretty industrial, there are actually some spots around the city that it isn't great to grow those things. You would have to do planter boxes and things like that. So all of that to say, it is actually pretty tough, and it involves like a good working relationship with the city and to be able to kind of do those things. Again, at the same time, like rogue tree plants and guerrilla harvesting of the wild mulberry trees, 100% support it. But to do an operation like this, yeah, it does takes a little bit of inside knowledge. Which is why we're hoping to be able to be really transparent about what it takes, and for us to be able to like kind of expand this model around the city, because we want this to be a thing that people can do and we want it to be accessible. But yeah, it's harder than it seems.
I think that's so interesting, because you think when you go along walks with your dog and you go like I wonder if if this spot could be used or this spot could be used, and it's not as easy as there's an open space here.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think about that, about how you'd have to put like box garden kind of set out on top if the soil's not there, but like you would still use the area. That's interesting.
Yeah, and like planter gardens, like definitely a different thing, but so valuable because you can control what goes in that planter. And yeah, there's the balance of like soil nutrition and safety and all of those things, but it's definitely possible. We've figured out a lot of it. So if you have questions, just let us know.
What about putting a garden in your, like, you want to take out your lawn or your backyard? What do you have to? Do you have to get? Maybe you might not know about all this, but do you have to get the city involved, or can you just like go ahead and do that kind of
I think for backyard gardens, I think when it comes to boulevards, things get a little trickier, but also food not lawns. So I think that yeah, I'm definitely not an authority on this, and uh, the, for legal reasons, look it up. But
thing?
yeah, I mean, I think that if you have the space and you have the means to be able to grow food, there's so many ways to be creative about it and to grow that. I know, like, I live in Old South, and walking around, there's so many places that have these little like gardens that are out front in their yards, and it's lovely to see.
I love that. And I just have one more quick thought here before we get into London stuff. Like, how sustainable is it possible to be like, let's say I have a backyard garden, would it be to like totally sustain myself per se? Could I make it? I obviously you depending on somebody's backyard. I don't even have one, but depending on the size of your backyard, like I don't know, could you sustain yourself, you think, with your own urban garden sort of thing?
You would have to be pretty crafty, and you would have to have the time to invest in it. But if you do, totally. Like, you know, again, we're in a I mean, climate crisis, but we're in an area where we have the winter, so we don't have like full season growing. So you need to, like,
Mhm.
preserve your tomatoes, or, really have a lot of storage veggies and things like that, and know how to store them properly. Um, and the
Mhm.
time that it takes to really know how to plant those things, and know how to harvest them and know how to like care for them, it can be a little bit time intensive if you're really going hard and wanting to like exclusively sustain yourself on that food. um, so the flip side of it is, if you did want to grow your own garden and you're intimidated by like how intense it can be, don't worry about fully sustaining yourself with your backyard. Just give it a go, see what happens, and then know that you have
Mhm.
options like Urban Roots or the Covent Garden or the Western Fair Market, to kind of offset all of those things. But yeah, it's the interesting thing is that, our agricultural system needs the balance of small local, like rural, like small scale farms, and then urban farms as well as backyard, and we need the balance of all three. It won't work without all of them kind of working collaboratively. Um, so if you can do your own thing, that is amazing, and like kudos. And if you can't, just know that you are participating in the ecosystem, and that's really helpful too.
So before we get into any of the London questions, is there anything else you want our listeners to know? Maybe how to follow you, uh, and get any more information that they might have or questions? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll just say that um, we know that our community is so valuable, and we will never take for granted anyone who joins our community. So if you have any interest, if you have any curiosity, like, by all means, please send us a message on Instagram, or just come by the farm. Even if it's not like a farm day or a market day, we'll likely have staff there who are just the most incredible and would be thrilled to chat with you. We're right off the TVP, so you can even like scoot on over on your bike, or we're right by the bus lines as well. So yes, we're always happy to see faces on the farm, and I would be thrilled to meet you, as well as would anyone else from the board.
Yeah, get involved, people. Get
Yeah.
involved. So our first London-based question here, we're gonna say is your favorite place to eat in the city.
Ooh. Okay. I really like ice cream, and so my immediate answer is Bake Vibes at the Western Fair Market. She just started doing scoops, and oh baby, they are good. So Bake Vibes for sure. And I do love, uh, well, the Root Cellar, my heart and soul. Currently not open, so second choice is probably Madre. Yeah,
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah.
cool.
I love a good sourdough pizza.
Very
Nice.
interesting. Do you know, did they do vegan cheese at Madre? I was worried that they would be like maybe sticklers kind of thing, which is fair.
I don't think they have vegan cheese, but they do have non-cheese options.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Very cool. Ooh,
yeah.
okay. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Uh, cool.
What would you say is your favorite neighborhood in London?
Mm. Ooh, that's tough. Um, I do love, well, honestly, the neighborhood of the farm, like that kind of Trafalgar, right by Meadow Lily. The neighbors there are amazing. I adore them. You're right by the TVP. You're right by Meadow Lily. Um, that's a pretty solid place. Yeah, I'm into the area. I don't even know what officially that neighborhood is called. I guess it's Old Trafalgar, maybe.
It's right at the end. It's Hamilton Road area still, kind
Oh
of,
yeah,
right?
I think yeah,
Yeah.
it would be
I-
Hamilton Road. Yes, so
yeah.
Hamilton Road, and I do love the coves as well. Big fan of the coves.
Oh, the coves are so great. Aaron used to work to promote the coves actually.
Yeah, I worked at Friends of the Cove, so it was really fun learning all about the real. Like, I had no idea that there was a whole, like, yeah, right in the middle of the city. There's a bunch of amazing little ponds and trails, and you would never guess where it is.
Yeah, I went
Yeah.
on a walk there a couple weeks ago, and yeah, we saw like 3 blue herons. My dog had a great time. Was followed around by like some dragonflies. Felt like I was like the woodland creatures were telling me there was that I was in, and I was there for it.
Dogs walking by the water there, it's just they love it so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
So your London small business you couldn't live without.
Ooh. Hmm. Okay, if we're not doing the root cellar, Rebel Remedy probably.
Mm.
Rebel, Julie and Shayna have fed me so many times where I'm just like, Julie, something's wrong with me, and she will give me the things that make me feel better, and I'm eternally grateful for them. And it tastes good, so
Oh yeah,
added bonus.
I love Rebel
That's
Remedy. It's great. Yeah.
Oh, good.
common answer on this show too.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Rebel Remedy.
Yeah, rebel with a cause.
If you were to have a perfect day in London, what would it entail?
Ooh, okay. I have thought about this a lot. So I would have my dog with me. He is a perfect creature. And it would be snowing because I am a winter baby. I love it so much. The snow is my favorite. So a big long hike in the snow with my dog. End up back in the neighborhood, go grab like a hot chocolate, and then come home with some pals, warm up, watch a trashy movie. I'm so happy.
That sounds amazing.
That does
Yeah.
sound really nice.
Yeah, you either do like a Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan, or you do a Julia Roberts classic. Doesn't matter. Either way, you're golden.
What's your vibe on Moonstruck? Does that ever slip in there?
Ooh, you know what? It hasn't been a while. I'm a big Mystic Pizza fan.
Okay.
But Moonstruck might need to revisit.
It's a big movie in my household. So yeah, like check it out again for sure.
Okay, I'll report back.
Nicolas Cage and Cher. You can't. How can you get
I
rid of them?
know. I mean, Nick Cage, he's got some curiosity about him, but I'm into it.
He's either in the best movie you've ever seen or the worst movie you've ever seen. No
Yeah.
middle ground.
Yeah. I mean, but what are your thoughts about It Could Happen to You? Because I think it falls in both categories.
I'm not sure if I've seen that
I
movie.
haven't seen that one
actually.
either.
Oh my goodness, you have to. It's terrible.
Oh yeah.
But it's like the so bad it's good kind of thing. Yeah.
100%.
Definitely going to. Absolutely. So you're a hidden gem in the city.
Ooh, hidden gem.
And so that could be a person, place, or thing. It doesn't have to be just like somewhere to go or anything.
Good question. Hidden gem. So there is a like is it vintage antique? I don't even know, but it's Pacifico John. You follow him on Instagram. He's got some weird stuff, but he's really great. And it's really, really fascinating. Or the Bridger Street Antique Market. Also a big fan. Again, you can find some weird stuff, and it is delightful.
I like that. Okay, where does the Bridger? Where does that happen? Where does that market happen? Sorry.
Yeah, it's also so it's like a collection of vendors. It's also kind of in that Hamilton Roadish area. It's on Bridges Street, like near the police reporting center, like right beside it.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, it's there's just it's a maze. Like you walk in and I have never been able to take the same path because it's just confusing. But I've also never left without buying something. So
Those are two great answers. I hadn't heard about either of them. So definitely be checking them out. Now it's time for Leonard's Pretty Cool's super famous and awesome game. This
or that.
So we give you two options. They're very similar from London. You just have to go quick. Tell us which one you choose between the two, this or that. Not a lot of explanation, not a lot of time to think, just right off the top of your head.
Got it.
You ready?
Yes.
All right. Starting off with Western Fair Market or Covent Garden Market?
Ooh, Covent.
Sunfest or Home County?
Home County.
Masonville Mall or White Oaks Mall?
Neither. Masonville.
I love that. That's a very common answer lately. People have been saying no to malls, which is very interesting. Dundas East or Richmond Row?
Ooh, Dundas East.
Springbank Park or Gibbons Park?
Springbank.
Fanshawe College or Western University?
Queens.
Oh, rivalry.
Odyssey Records or Grooves Records?
Ooh, Odyssey.
Brown and Dixon or City Lights?
Brown and Dixon.
Would you rather bike on the TVP or hike on one of the in one of the environmentally significant areas?
Ooh, hike. That one's tough though.
What about London Brewing Co-op or Anderson Craft Ales?
LBC.
And finally, Black Walnut or Asmara Coffee?
Asmara, for sure.
Nice.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Unscathed.
Yeah. Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, no, thank you. Miriam, thank you so much for taking the time today. This has been a really, really informative interview and just really interesting. So I hope that all of our listeners are going to be just like us, be getting involved and, maybe like getting involved in your own backyard as well. And, your lawn doesn't have to be grass. It can be more than that, right?
100%.
Yes, thanks again. Is there anything else before we let you go that you want to let our listeners know?
No, just thanks for having me. It's been an absolute delight. And yeah, if folks have questions, please feel free to reach out. We are always happy to chat.
Awesome. And we hope to
Amazing.
see all of our listeners out at the markets because we will be there too.
Excellent. My name is Miriam Waligi. I'm from Urban Roots London, and you're listening to London's Pretty Cool podcast.